Welcome to the What's Your Deal podcast, where we discuss business acquisitions, investments, management, and exit strategies. I'm your host, Matt Uhler. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of What's Your Deal. I'm here today with a good friend of mine, Eric Tastet. And Eric agreed to join us from Florida, so we appreciate him being on with us today virtually. Let me share with you a little bit about Eric's background. He started his career in the ministry where he served for 20 years, and he is now the VP of Client Strategy for the Aspire Tour Company, and also serves as the VP and the lead instructor for their tax-free crypto education program. As I mentioned, Eric lives in Florida with his wife, Rebecca, whom he's been married to for 24 years, which is a testament to his character as well. And they have 4 daughters. So Eric, thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, Matt. Always a joy to see you and hear from you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. It's actually fun. The last time we talked, we had just from my ears a very enjoyable conversation. So it's such an honor to have you with us today.
Yeah, it's an honor to be with you.
Thank you. So one of the things your life and your role, especially with Aspire, is so fascinating, and transitioning from being a minister for 20 years, I think is fascinating. So can you share with our audience kind of how that transition took place, and then what is maybe a deeper dive into your role with Aspire Tours?
Yeah, so the owners of the company I've known for a long time. One of the owners, Andrew, he and I went to college together, Bible college together, that is. And he kind of started out his entrepreneurial career while we were in college. And he and I together with a window cleaning company, pressure washing company. So we go back quite a few years. He went off to build this awesome empire that I'll talk about here in just a moment with Aspire. And then I went out to plant a ministry. So I guess you could say I was a pastorpreneur. When you start from scratch, right? A ministry, a church. And we went to Reno, Nevada. At the time, and I think still is in the same category, the second least church city in America. So we wanted to go to where, we felt Charlotte, and no offense if you're listening from Charlotte. Charlotte probably has a good amount of churches. So we wanted to go to a place where that need wasn't necessarily met as well. So that's where my wife and I, we planted, did that for about 12 years, built a decent sized ministry there, and then eventually went on to do what's called church revitalization, which is an opportunity to take older churches that kind of lost their vision. Everybody grew up together. They're now in their 60s and 70s, and there's no, vision or excitement that there once was. So kind of go in there, bring in some energy. I did that for about a year, and then I resigned because one thing I found out, Matt, I am not, and I hope your listeners can understand this statement and not necessarily be too offended by it, but I found out I'm not a good pastor to church people. Church people, I did not grow up, in the ministry or anything like that when this structure of a spiritual walk came in my life. It truly did change my life, of course, by its nature, spiritually, but then by the structure of mentorship and things to do, getting me off the street, so on and so forth. And you've met my brother, we had 2 drastically different lives, and I can attest that it was this ministry that got a hold of me. Wow. So I found that I just wasn't a good pastor to people who have been like in church, their whole lives. And so I realized I was going to do more damage than good. These Christian Karens and Kyles, they tend to take things, make them things that aren't things. And now we have to talk about the thing that's not a thing, which becomes the main thing, which distracts us from the main thing. And now we don't have a clue of the thing we're supposed to do.
Now I know why you're the guy for the job. I couldn't say that.
And I realized that just was going to do more damage than good in an established kind of place. And I just, being a free thinker, not tribal thinker, I realized that, maybe that's not the place for me. So I resigned, took this sabbatical, got back into business, in the construction business, moved out to Portland, Oregon, at that time. And then Andrew, the previous owner I just mentioned, gave me a call because he knew I was into crypto. When you're in the ministry, unless you're a charlatan or you have a best-selling book, there's not a lot of money in the ministry. but one thing you understand about ministry, that's my calling. That's not my career. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Because I can be called to be a shepherd to people or be helpful to people. It doesn't matter what my vocation is or my occupation. So, anyways, in the construction world, making extra money trading crypto, he says, "Hey, man, we bought a crypto platform. You wanna run it for us?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And uh, now the last 3 years I've been down here in Florida helping them build essentially the whole Aspire network. So that's it in sort of a nutshell.
Yeah, and so your roles within Aspire are twofold. As the client strategy liaison, that's a significant role. I've watched you in that role. But then this lead instructor aspect with crypto is just a whole separate job. And so you bounce back and forth between them, between training and educating, and then managing the client strategy piece.
Yeah, I'm grateful that I have a good team, a good team of people we call MRPs, which are our member relationship partners. They really help me with taking our clientele. So the big picture is Aspire Tour. And to your listeners, maybe you've attended one of our Aspire tours, especially if you're in a bigger demographic. We go all over the country. Every single month, we're in a different big market. And from there, our avatar, meaning the people that we are targeting or going after, are entrepreneurs or business owners, or people who are interested in the like. And then we hire, very well-known celebrities, David Goggins. We've had Joe Montana. One of the only times I'd ever been really like a fangirl is when we had Joe Montana, and also Drew Brees at one point as well. We've had, Barbara Corcoran and Kevin O'Leary. We had Martha Stewart. And it's funny because Martha Stewart signed like her prison orange suit and gave it to Andrew. It's funny. Anyways, I could name a list of them. Gary Vee, one of my favorite speakers out there. He's really encouraging. Jesse Itzler, and you name it. What we do is we promote those speakers because people will buy a ticket because they don't know, who Andrew and Eddie, our owners, are. So they'll come, hear some great high value from those people. And then there's an opportunity for our owners to get up and talk about the products, which in this case is one of our products called Aspire Wealth, which essentially is teaching the masses or the blue collar folk or the middle class people about what the 1% are doing and how you can take advantage of it, and how to protect your money from taxes, and how to move money and those things. And so we sell a course, they come to the course, and they have an opportunity to get into our mastermind. And that's what's called our Aspire for More Mastermind. And the Aspire for More Mastermind is where I am the VP of client strategy. So they get in, what's my next step? Where do I go? How do I set up this kind of self-directed Roth IRA, for example? How do I set up this, what's called a solo 401k, to make it self-directed? And we teach them how they can own, rental properties in their traditional IRA, how they can buy properties in their 401ks or private equity, so on and so forth. So anyways, that's what me and my team do. We help them and guide them along the way of that whole process.
Yeah. So once they connect with you in Aspire, then they're working on getting the education they need to get where they want to go. And that's where I'm sure tax-free crypto comes in as well. And we'll touch on that in a little bit. But one of the things that strikes me, because I've watched you in that role with Aspire, is that you tend to be very, very balanced and diplomatic and manage all of the dynamics of watching people try to excel and achieve, and sometimes getting frustrated along the way, or they're not getting the results they want because of something they're doing. And you've you've observed lots of people, I'm sure, in the ministry and with Aspire, and the human dynamics of how to be successful, meaning getting the outcome they want. So can you share with us a little bit about human dynamics and what you've learned, and especially for our audience, the people that are listening to this show are wanting to achieve something, right? They're wanting to better their life and achieve a goal. Maybe with that in mind, you can share some of what you've learned over all these years.
Yeah, uniquely, I've taken all the personality tests, from DISC tests to predictive index tests to Enneagram tests and all these things. I tend to lean back toward the same sort of personality, which is a challenger by nature, I'm a captain on the PI scale, right? And if you are somebody who is faith-based, having the gift of leadership, and the gift of leadership is not typically what people think that might be. Essentially, it's the ability to get people encouraged to do the same task. So the example for that would be, let's say we're in a large room and it happens to get dirty. Somebody with an ability like mine, and I hate saying that because it sounds like it just sounds weird to say it that way, but I have no way else to paint the picture, would come in and I would say something like, hey, Matt, would you go get a broom? Sarah, go out there and get the vacuum. Mrs. Smith, would you mind sweeping up the corners? And I'm trying to get everybody involved in the same mission task at the same time, because then that provides camaraderie. Then that provides like, man, I'm getting to know this person through work and all this other stuff. That's somebody that's like this natural DNA that's within me, getting everybody in the same task. Then you'll have other people who are more of like, they have that gift of service, right? They just like serving people. They tend to be a little bit more on the introvert side. And in that same scenario, they would be the people like, all right, good night, everybody. I got this. And they shoo everybody out the door, and then they'll clean the whole room themselves. And what I find is a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in the mom and pop sort of shops, whether it's construction or a hair salon or, you name it, candle making, soap making, or whatever, oftentimes your business doesn't grow beyond the ceiling because you're in that gift of service kind of person where you're like, I'm the one that can get it done. I don't want to discourage other people around me. And what happens is you're robbing people of the ability to learn a skill so that there's a perpetual opportunity for your business or whatever you're trying to build to continue to go or scale or grow. So when I look at people, I tend to see where they are. And I've told you this before, Matt, where I find a lot of joy in what I get to do working with people is I just want to be the guy that sort of puts that light bulb in the thought bubble that people are having, because oftentimes they're going to get stuck because they don't see things beyond the perspective where they're at. So I want to walk them around that corner and help change their trajectory by simply just changing the way they think about a thing. And often culturally, we get stuck in how we think about things because, man, you're not going to convince me that this doesn't exist because I've known my whole life X, Y, Z. And the illustration I like to use for that is, Matt, have you ever heard of the word kuhats? Have you ever heard of that before?
I have not, no.
Okay. I don't know anybody in the world who knows what kuhat is. My father, born and raised in Metairie, Louisiana, one of the suburbs outside of New Orleans. My father was as Cajun gets, right? Had that thick Louisiana accent. And he would talk about these clothes, these kuhats. And I got to tell you, Matt, for years, even as a young adult, I would talk about kuhats. Nobody knew what I was talking about. And I'd be like, yeah, like the good workwear, the nice pants, the good shirts, especially on construction. They're like, oh, you mean Carhartt? And I'm like, what are you talking about? So in other words, my perspective had to change because my culture taught me something different.
I like that.
My culture taught me kuhat. But the reality was, well, no, it's Carhartt. So let's save you embarrassment for the rest of your adult life, so to speak, Now, my father didn't do that to me on purpose. That's just how he talked. That's how it was. And so I had to grow up thinking Carhartts were kuhats, and nobody knew in the store where those were. So my desire is to help put that light bulb in the thought bubble as you're trying to think through a thing, because it sounds hyperbolic, and I don't mean any hyperbole within it. I really do want to change people's trajectory, because where they think they're going or headed, my desire is to get it to ricochet, because I want to change the cultural norm. I want to change, like, man, here's the homeostasis of my thought process. And I'm trying to wreck that, so to speak, in a way and in a language that they'll open up the gift that's been presented to them based on how I wrapped it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. So you're kind of changing the story so that somebody might accept it, right? So it's, yeah, Well, that's a rabbit hole. I won't go down there, but there's a whole nother conversation we could have about that. That's great. But yeah, sometimes I think if I'm understanding what you're sharing, it's just we get so wrapped up in our own idea and belief about how it is and how it has to be that to scramble it a little bit, using your term of kind of break it down, gives people an opportunity to potentially lead a different life and understand things in a way that they didn't before because their eyes are open now.
I think one of my favorite quotes, I remember hearing it from one of my professors in college, and I'm sure he got it from somewhere else. If he quoted it and gave credit to the quote, I don't remember. I just remember my professor saying it. Oh, how much you care before they care how much you know. Okay. So many people are trying to correct people with knowledge. And my desire is not to win a conversation. My desire is to win a person. If I can win a person, I can then change them by knowledge.
That's great.
I believe in this relational equity. My 20-year-old daughter, right? She's now a sophomore in college. She'll come home, like we just had her for Thanksgiving. Oh, Father, you would be so happy with me. I've made so much relational equity at school. She's making fun of me because of that term. But I can't tell you that is the currency, right? US dollars won't change the world. That's not the currency that will change them. The currency that changes the world is the relational equity that you build and hold with people, because that's the only life-changing thing that can happen. Sure, you can be helpful to somebody. I think the term is overquoted, and oftentimes when we overquote something, because a quote is memorized, we don't look into its depth, right? So the term is feed a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. We'll use the quote because it's what we've memorized, but then it's like, well, how do I actually do that? Well, you do it with relational equity. And so that I'm trying to be purposeful in how I in my professional work as the VP of Client Strategy. How do I strategize with somebody who doesn't even know how to fish yet? And instead of scolding them for, you're a grown up, you're a grown man, a grown woman, why don't you know how to fish, right? Instead, it's like, man, how you doing? It's the I do, we do, and then you do. I'm building relationship. And when I can do that, then that gives me the ability to say, hey, Matt, go grab a broom. Sarah, go grab a vacuum. That gives you the ability then to get everybody on a team to then go out and, as my father-in-law would often say to me, I want to go charge hell with a wet rag. And you can get people behind you to charge hell with a squirt gun with you if you have the relational equity.
That's great. Well, and I've watched you build that. I appreciate the relational equity theme. It's something that I've used in my career as well, where oftentimes I'm building equity in a relationship long before we're talking about how I might be compensated for what I do or any of that. And it's really, to me, the relational equity, using your term, is where it starts. And so, and honestly, without that, it's empty, I think, as well. So in your role with Aspire and all of your background in ministry, especially being more from the secular world, I guess, as opposed to the within the church, you watch people succeed and not succeed in their endeavors. And I'm sure you watch people through Aspire. They start out with motivation, but it takes some discipline to continue to get the outcome they want. Do you have any gems you can share with us about what you've seen work and not work as people try to reach the outcome they're after?
I often do, when I do the onboarding calls with our new members, one of the illustrations I often use, and it's so simple, but illustrations are windows that let light into a subject. So I'll often use the illustration about, okay, you're now in membership. You bought a membership to a thing. Oftentimes the emotional motivation is there because you just had a dynamic speaker teach you something you'd never heard before. So you're excited. You get in, you jump in, then you go home and you talk to people that have no idea what you've heard. And oftentimes the most familiar relationships give you the hardest time because they weren't there emotionally with you. So they'll talk you out of it. They'll say things that, what did you get into? Did you get into another cult? Did you drink Kool-Aid? Or and you can name that for any context. Even people who are avid sports fans like myself. Man, are you in the Miami Dolphins cult? And it's like, well, I guess I am, right? So they'll be kind of talked out of it this way. So the illustration I'll use is when you buy a membership to a gym, do you then, after 3 months, show up and say, you know what, this just isn't working for me? And then they look up your account. Well, Matt, it looks like you haven't been to the gym in 90 days. Why would you be upset with us that it's not working for you?
Right.
Right. Why do you pay a fee for a thing you don't use and then get mad at the thing you don't use, that the thing you don't use isn't working for you? Mm-hmm. The gym is only successful because you go, not because you paid for access.
That's an excellent metaphor.
It's incredibly important to understand that in order for me to get better in anything, consistency is the key to success in anything. There's zero success without consistency. You can't have it. You can even use that same illustration for if you won the lottery, you consistently kept buying lottery tickets. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like success comes because you do it and you do it and you do it. I just finished a book recently. I love anything about the Revolutionary War. And then I really love the Abraham Lincoln and that whole story. But I just finished reading another book about Lincoln and his whole path and journey that, he failed here. He didn't get voted in here. This didn't work out for him. And you can account for like 11 or 12 different nope, didn't get in, failure. And obviously not even controversial that he's one of the greatest presidents we ever had, because failure is what equals success. And so if you're consistent at failing, eventually you'll succeed. But if you don't work, right, maybe if you do end up going to the gym, well, you're not going to be able to, if your goal is to lift heavy, you're not going to lift your heaviest the first time you go. You'll do it on the 6th month you go. You'll do it on the 8th month you go, right? And you sort of begin to progress that way. So many people want their success overnight because they're so addicted. My kids laugh at me, Matt, when I say it this way. They're so addicted to TikTok, and you scroll through and watch all those videos. So addicted to TikTok and Instagram that everything's a consistent gratification. Which, by the way, if your listeners are readers, one of my favorite books to read is a book called The Coddling of the American Mind by Jonathan Haidt. Fantastic read about this very subject, how we've coddled the American mind and the loss of true perspective because physical relationships don't exist the way, they used to. And so that's sort of my desire and goal is to help people understand, not to do it for them, but to help them understand that, man, you have to put the work, the thing that you paid for it to be working for you, right? Don't be mad at the brand new $90,000 Yukon in the driveway if it doesn't take you to the movie theater. It only gets to the movie theater if you get in and drive it. So much waste is out there because people are. Oh, here's a good one. Here's what I found, Matt, in this world. People are addicted to learning.
Interesting.
That's it. They are sponges of learning and learning and learning. And it's impossible to gain wisdom without experience. You can have knowledge without experience all day long, but you cannot have wisdom without experience. And wisdom, of course, is the application of the knowledge. And I want people to be wise in the world. So go out, man, go get it done.
So are you, and there's so many gems in that, especially if we're talking about human dynamics and how people can achieve the outcome they want. So when you're working with somebody who paid some money to be part of the program, and in your analogy, they're not going to the gym and they're upset at the gym that it's not working for them, how often are you able to encourage somebody or inspire them to get into the gym, to take advantage of what they paid for, to get the outcome they wanted? And how often do people just give up and go away, and that just becomes one more learning opportunity for them of where they bought a program and learned something but didn't go the distance or get the outcome?
I found out, Matt, that the majority of people, and I don't want to say the majority of people I work with more than the majority of people, right? There's even a biblical analogy about broad is the way and many that go that way, and narrow is the way that goes this way, and few there be that go that way. I would say for the masses, and my wife, she and I use this term together. We call them the yabbit people. Yabbit. You say something to them and it's, yeah, but, oh, okay. What's the but? Well, I would do it that way, but it's the yeah, but, and it's the one thing that they're always consistent with is to always see how there's a problem. People don't want to be held accountable. 24 years of marriage, Matt, I know you're there too. It's like, man, when the wife says the thing that holds you accountable, there's 1,000 excuses and a million things to say in the world. And because of my relational equity with my wife, I'm willing to change. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to change because of the equity somebody put in me. And which is my true expression back to her that I love her, and vice versa. Obviously, when it comes to what I do, it's not that I'm madly in love with the individuals I'm trying to help. I truly care for them and want them to succeed. But some people are just helpless, and they're not going to learn until they fail and they fail and they fail and they fail. So many times, and it's so disheartening. There are more losers than winners. And I'm using the term winners and losers in the sense of jargon, not in the sense of people are losers or winners. I'm just using it as jargon. There's more losers than winners in the game, and that's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, yeah, because certainly the desire was there, right? When they signed up, they wanted to win, they wanted to get the outcome, and I'm a huge advocate in my life of wanting to stack wins and focus on wins. Because me focusing on stacking losses doesn't seem to bring out the best in me. And so, unfortunately, when somebody has an opportunity to not get the outcome that they sought for, they're faced with a decision. Is this just one more to support the story I tell myself about not being worthy or not good enough or whatever that story is for them? Or is it a small win and a small step forward towards the outcome that they desire? So
I'd say growing pains are painful, hence the term growing pains. And a lot of people don't want to go through that pain. And I know you've heard with our mutual friend, Andrew Cordell, who talks about contributors versus creators. And there's that growing pain as you convert from contributor to creator. One of the examples would be most people, myself, yourself included, we're used to these trillion-dollar asset managers and custodial institutions that have put billions of dollars into their tech. And so when you get on their apps on your phone or on their web pages, you and I are just used to pressing a button, and then the thing we want to have happen happens. And it truly is the easy button. Well, in my world now, in the self-directed world where you're self-directing your funds in those same types of accounts, it's frustrating because there's all the paperwork you have to do. You're going out to find the deal. You don't have the financial advisor that's gives you the obligatory 10-minute call once a year. All right, Matt, we're going to sell off your position in this ETF, and now we're going to go over here. And most people are like, great, why even bother me? I trust you. Just put it out there, Mr. Jones, Edward Jones, or Chuck Schwab or whatever. So in the self-directed world, there's a lot more ownership, and where ownership is, there's accountability. Where accountability is, there's growth. Where growth is, there's pain, and people just don't want that. It's like, I don't want to be bothered, or they think they don't have the time. And the reason people don't think they have time is because they don't make the time. And so they find themselves in this continual yeah, but spinning cycle because they're used to Wells Fargo letting them push a button. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're contributors.
Yeah. And the distinction, maybe you can share for our audience, the distinction between contributors and creators, just briefly for context.
Yeah. So the contributor mindset, we all are, I hate using the word victim, but again, just to use our colloquialisms in language, we're all victim to being a contributor because most of your educational services, from elementary to high school to even college, we are pre-programmed with this contributor mindset. Contributors become consumers, and consumers become indebted, and then debt is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. And this is not me putting on the tinfoil hat here. We've all seen it. We've all been in those cycles. Whereas a creator looks at the problem and finds what we call a blue ocean. Which is another fantastic book. Again, if your listeners are readers, that book, Blue Ocean Strategies. What's beautiful about that book, it kind of opens up the first chapter about what a blue ocean is. Essentially, a red ocean is bloody waters, right? It's a feeding frenzy. Where a blue ocean is a strategy within the same waters that separates the waters altogether. And the first case study they use is Cirque du Soleil.
Interesting.
We all know about Cirque du Soleil. It's beautiful. It's fantastic show. Well, what industry did they come out of? Well, they came out of the circus industry. And I think it's the number 2 import from Canada is Cirque du Soleil. And they came out of the same industry where Barnum and Bailey's and all these other circuses that went town to town, set up their tents at the fairgrounds and all that other stuff. And you still had your acrobats and your beautiful shows, but that was all a red ocean. Everybody's just clamoring and biting for the same ticket buyer. Like, oh, Barnum is selling them for $5. We'll sell them for $3, right? It's just, they just bite and bite and bite. Mm-hmm. And the crowd just gets older and older because they just remember circuses from a childhood. And most kids are just like, this is not entertaining to me. And then Cirque du Soleil comes along, same industry, but they created a blue ocean. And out of that blue ocean came this wonderful product that we all love and pay top dollar for. And that's the difference between contributor. We're all in that red ocean, mm-hmm. right? Fighting for the same buyer. This happens in the church world, right? From older dying churches. And then you have the flashy kind of ministry, and see how people are even consumers in the church world. Well, they have this program, I'll send my kids there. Or they become consumers instead of purposeful. Mm-hmm. And to be purposeful is to be a creator. And it just takes time. It's you taking the time to take the time to figure out what kind of time it takes to create this beautiful blue ocean that you want to set sail on forever. Mm-hmm. And it comes with its waves. It comes, of course, with its storms, but that's the difference between contributor and creator.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And it's certainly I know the way Andrew talks about it, it's a mindset and a shift, and that if you want what you've received in the past, just stay where you are. And if you want something different, mm-hmm. then you do things different. And that's where your role comes in. So important. So a couple more questions for you that I'd love to cover. One is that your role I've watched you in has you on the road a lot. And a lot of business owners, matter of fact, almost everyone I know, struggles with finding balance in life and taking care of self and health and wealth and relationships and business and all of those things, those 5 categories. You travel 3, 4, 5 times a month. Is that fair to say?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Is that conservative?
Yeah, there was a time where I was traveling, I think 6 weeks out of a 4-week month.
Wow.
Yeah, quite a bit. It's tampered back quite a bit. So there's just a handful I do, but yeah.
Yeah.
I travel quite a bit.
So how do you personally manage balance or rhythm in your life with such an all-consuming role in business that you have with Aspire and 4 daughters and a wife and all of that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I have 4 daughters and a wife because I think God is paying me back for crimes against humanity when I was young. But I love being a daughter dad. Mm-hmm. But honestly, whether this name triggers anybody or not, again, the apologies are there, but it's just my story. I really admire a guy like Elon Musk
Mm-hmm.
who is able to manage um, three multi-billion-dollar companies. Now, you can say, yeah, but he didn't really do it. It's because X, Y, Z. Right. That's the model.
Mm-hmm.
Find the XYZ and then build your kingdom to be a multi-billion dollar. Well, it's just because he has the right CEO in place. Right. So go find the right CEO so that you can time manage to do another adventure, so on and so forth. Anyways, I read a periodical about him where at one point, especially when he was getting SpaceX going, his day would be like in 5 minute intervals. Every 5 minutes, he'd have a new person in front of him. And it wasn't a review of like your job review. Am I going to keep you or let you go? It was 5 minutes of what decisions have to be made. And I thought, okay, this guy understands the necessity of time management.
Mm-hmm.
And time management doesn't mean stop doing a thing in order to do a thing because you have to take time to do the other thing that you didn't have time for, although that's part of it. But Matt, what I found to do is I often add to something I'm already doing. I add to that what I want to be doing. Okay, so this might be TMI, too much information here. I take a shower every single day. However, I also have a goal of reading a good 30 books a year. That's a goal I've had for many, many years. And the way that I do that is since I always shower and I have a membership that I use called Audible, I download those books and I listen to the books I want while I'm in the shower. I didn't have to take extra time to read the book or get the information of the book. I just added it to the thing I'm already doing.
That's interesting.
So this is what I began to do. I would add to what I'm already doing things that I want to do. I know I have a commute. I have to drive to work.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm in town, right, I live about a little over an hour away from the office here. So I schedule a lot of my member calls. My commute home for those on the West Coast, I get a lot of calls done in an hour, hour and 15, rush hour traffic. Sometimes it's an hour and a half. So I don't have to necessarily tie up my entire workday of call. The thing I'm already doing is I'm already commuting. So, well, let me make my calls. Let me talk to that person. I think you and I have had calls when it's like, I just landed, I'm in my Uber. Let's talk, Matt.
Right.
I'm always making the time management, just adding things I'm already doing to what I need to.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of them. And then of course it's having the right team. Oftentimes I learned this from Jesse Itzler. I like to hire based on attitude because you can train skills to anybody. 99% of jobs can be trained. That opens up a whole different can of worms if we philosophize there. But then there's the 1% of jobs, like, I want my brain surgeon to
right, yeah,
have gotten to school for that. But I don't care that the receptionist at the desk at the doctor's office has a beautiful smiling receptional face, and I don't care if she didn't go to receptionist school or not.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I hire based on attitude. Because we all respond to attitude. We all have that crazy customer service story. Well, I don't want that. I want the person whose default is, I'm going to change your heart and mind about what you're calling about because of my attitude, not because of my job.
Yeah.
So anyways, I that's where I try to find my balance.
Okay.
My time management is not stopping a thing in order to do a thing. It's adding a thing to the thing I'm already doing.
I see. Yeah. Well, and time's the only commodity we all have the same amount of. And so it's
right.
Learning how to manage it is crucial. Well, we've got a few minutes left. I'd love to know a little bit about tax-free crypto. And if you can simplify that for us, if possible, that would be great.
Sure. I'd love to talk to you about the flux capacitor and all the nodes and white papers.
Yeah.
It becomes an interesting subject only because, again, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Another memorized phrase that people don't dive into, but it's true. You have to look at crypto right now as I'm 45 years old. Okay. I think generationally, they call my group of people Zennials. I was born 1900 in the year of our Lord, 1980. My kids often remind me, Dad, you were born in the 1900s. I was like, wow, okay. But we were a generation that saw the world go from analog to digital.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it. So it was easy for us to adapt. Well, I remember in the mid 90s, this thing called the internet. Well, in the mid 90s, the internet was already 15 years old, 15, 16 years old. The internet came to be in about 1983. This was a weird stat I learned, Matt. I'm going somewhere with the crypto on this. I have to paint the illustration. That's how I like to build it.
Mm-hmm.
1983 is where public use internet truly came out. Obviously, the military had their way of doing data, and they probably had interweb connected stuff. I'm talking about main public use. 1983. I don't know anybody in the 80s that were really on the internet. I'm not saying they weren't, obviously, because it was around, but not in any mainstream way. It wasn't until the mid 90s. And I read the stat that in 1997, there were about 140 million people. In 97, the population of the earth was just over 6 billion people. And the internet had 140 million people using it.
Wow.
That stat blows my mind that's it out of 6 billion. Fast forward to today, I think Facebook alone, not just Meta and their other platforms, but Facebook alone has 3.5 billion on it daily.
Wow.
And that's just one website, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was this beautiful, innovative moment that happened in the mid 90s. Then you and I are old enough to remember hearing about the dot-com bubble. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And it was people buying random English word.com for $100, maybe $1,000, $1,500 for that domain or that address, that www dot thing. And then they turn around and sell it for $10, $30 million dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Baby.com, angel.com, glasses.com. They're just buying up these addresses and then selling them to people that need it, like, lens crafters or, people who make those products had to buy them because this was the new world. And the reason I say all that is because right now in crypto, we're about 16 years old. Bitcoin came to be, the white paper was 2009. So we're 16, January will be 17 years old. And now we have the federal government that has a strategic reserve buying up Bitcoin. We have ETFs, right? The largest asset manager in the world, BlackRock, $13 trillion of assets under management. They have an ETF, which means they have to buy up as much Bitcoin as they can in order to offer an ETF that represents Bitcoin. So you have institutional money flooding into crypto in a major way. Well, today we're close to 8 billion people in the world, and there's only about 180 million people that buy and trade crypto.
Wow. So
I'm using the deductive reasoning. When I was 17 in 97, I didn't care what it was, I look at right now is 1997 internet when it comes to crypto. So I'm trying to encourage people that this is a growing asset class. And whether we like it or not, just like the internet, the boomers, as we call them, they didn't want that newfangled computer machine thing. Whether they liked it or not, here it is. Mm-hmm. That's what we're doing. You and I would not be having this awesome conversation without the internet.
Isn't that true?
And that innovation. So that's where we're headed with crypto. So right now, you're still an early bird to get into this asset class while it makes sense affordably. So I try to teach people that where the uniqueness of tax-free crypto comes in is I show you how you do it in a tax-free vehicle. So
excellent.
We are a trading platform that you can have a Roth IRA that you can own your cryptocurrencies in. So all that beautiful story of the importance of crypto, and then I'm just ending it with you can trade it if you decide to, or buy and hold in a tax-free vehicle.
That's great. Well, we'll put in the show notes where people can find you to learn more about that. The last question I have for you is it's important to me because it's about gratitude for me, but I have never met anybody who got where they wanted to go without somebody giving them a hand up or or believing in them when they didn't believe in themselves. And so do you have somebody in your life that comes to mind that just helped you out when you needed it?
In no ashamedness to be cliche and to get brownie points with her, I can't say it without naming my wife, Rebecca.
Oh, that's great.
Of 24 years. She's the kind of person that loved somebody unlovable until that unlovable person became lovable. In other words, she loved me into position. It wasn't somebody who loved me because of the position.
Oh, that's great.
So regardless of the finances we have, that's irregardless, right? The most magical relationship I have is with my biggest encourager. So I have to say that, and I truly mean that.
Yeah.
But this is one of the questions I told you before we started recording. Like, I called my wife, like, man, babe, I feel weird that I don't have a person to say, oh, this one's my mentor. And she goes, you know, honey, about you, you're so non-tribal and you have so many relationships with everybody. And she was telling me a story of how, do you remember the reason why you planted a church in Reno is because a drunk guy called you saying that he was worried his wife and sister-in-law would go to a different kind of church if you didn't come and start one here? I was like, yeah. So therefore that drunk guy, I mean, drunk off his head,
yeah,
changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have another encourager, a gentleman named Vern in my life. He's a Korean War veteran. He's still alive today in his early 90s. There's not been another big encourager. He doesn't have like the smarts that we have in the entrepreneur world or money management or movement, but he was there for the encouragement. So what my wife was teaching me when I was calling her about this, she's like, honey, you have more of like okay, who's the subject matter person on this? Okay, that's where I'm not going to get like marriage advice from this guy because he's on his third or fourth marriage, although he probably has some good nuggets.
Yeah.
And I want to stay in my one, so maybe I'll take that if I went to him for marriage. But he probably is somebody who knows deeply how to set up what we call a ROB structure, a rollover business startup, and then buy your C Corp would own certain shares. So then that person becomes that person for me.
Yeah.
So I'll end it with this statement because I can't name a person because I'm such a high relationship person. I mean, Matt, even yourself, if you don't mind me sharing, of course, I called you several weeks ago, like, Matt, I'm looking to buy a business. I have no idea what to do. Would you mind looking at this paper? Well, in that moment, you're my mentor. You're that person like, okay, here's the expert. I'm not going to make this on my own without him. And by the way, we have more deals to bring you. So
sounds
stay
great.
tuned. So the statement I love, it came from another professor in college. Again, I don't know if it's his quote, but I love it. And it says, everybody knows something I don't, therefore all men are my teachers. So from the bum on the street to the guy on Wall Street, it's irrelevant. Somebody has a subject matter expertise, and that's the person I'm out for. Now, I think most people are used to going to the one person that, man, they are my education or they are my source on all things. And I don't have that person.
Yeah.
I have that person for this subject. I have that person for this subject. You see what I mean?
I do.
That's how I look at it. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that about your wife, and having met her, I understand that. And I could also feel that when Audrey and I got to see you two together. So I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to share your wisdom and knowledge of dealing with so many people, and especially when it's related to them trying to achieve what they're after, which is, this whole podcast. What's your deal? It's like, what are you up to? What are you about? And most people I talk to are trying to figure out how to get where they want to go, and how to achieve that oftentimes requires a mirror. So, so I really appreciate that. Thank you again for joining us.
It's my pleasure. And to the listeners out there, this guy is rock solid, and I'm glad that you found his channel. I hope that you continue to listen to Matt, to his tidbits, to his advice, and I'm privileged to be on the journey of life with Matt Uhler. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, that's another episode for you, filled with some gems and presented in a way that certainly make me think about life and how I look at life. And so I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. And that's a wrap on today's episode. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and got some valuable insights into the world of buying and selling businesses. Want to be a guest on our show? If you have a deal that you'd like to discuss with us or a business story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email using the contact information below in the episode notes, and let's make this happen. Never miss an episode. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you found today's episode helpful, please leave us a review. It helps more people like you find the show.